How to learn English grammar and improve language skills. After school, I go to a cafe where my job training starts. I don't know what to expect because I have never worked in a cafe before. I'm not sure if I can do this job. When I arrive, I am very surprised. It is a modern cafe that sells coffee, tea, chocolate cakes, and sandwiches. My boss is only 25 years old, but she has been working at the cafe for more than 2 years. She has a lot of experience and knows everything perfectly. She shows me how to prepare coffee, wash dishes, and deal with customers. It is all new to me. I remember only about 20% of what she tells me. But then she lets me do the work and corrects me when I make a mistake. She is very friendly, and I learn fast. After the first day at work, I am very tired. I had to learn many new things, but I am happy that I have a job. The next day is Friday, and I go to school again. One student asks an interesting question. Sometimes when I speak, I am not sure if I am speaking correctly. I am not sure if I am using correct grammar. Can you help me learn grammar? Our teacher responds, "Thank you for your question. There are 2 groups of students. Some study English because they want to speak it, and others study because they want to pass an exam." For each group, there is a different approach. First, for those who need English for speaking, you don't have to study grammar a lot. When you learned your native language, you did so without studying grammar. You can learn English grammar naturally by using the language. The best way to learn grammar naturally is by reading a lot. Books are written with good grammar, and when you read, you learn grammar in context. I also recommend shadowing. When you do shadowing, you practice correct grammar naturally. You don't have to try to remember anything. You just copy sentences with correct grammar. If you need English for speaking but also want to study grammar, you can visit www.grammarinlevels.com. This website shows what grammar is important for different levels of English. You can find the most important grammar rules for speaking there. The second group of students are those who study English for passing an exam. If you are one of these students, I recommend studying specifically for the exam. It might be helpful to get versions of past exams if they are available and train with them. Of course, your exam will be a little different, but the structure is usually the same or very similar. From my point of view, past exam versions are good training materials. I recommend taking the exam only when your results in the training materials indicate that you could pass the exam successfully. Did I answer your question? Yes, thank you, says the student. This is good news. I don't like studying grammar. I learn English because I want to be able to speak, not because I need to pass any exam. I am happy that I don't have to study grammar much. I like reading, and I am happy that I can learn grammar by reading books. After the lesson, I visit the website www.grammarinlevels.com. It is a nice website with grammar rules and examples for each level. They have 3 levels: 1,000, 2,000, and 3,000 words. In the afternoon, I go to work. It is my second day, and I can already do a lot of things by myself, but my boss helps me whenever I need it. I see that my work is not very difficult, and I can practice English when I speak to our customers. English. It is Monday again, and I go to school. Our teacher asks us what we did during the weekend. I say that I was at work on Saturday and that I can already do my work quite well. I mention that I am happy when I can speak to our customers. When I speak, one of the girls in the class asks, "What happened to your voice? You sound very different from what we heard last week. Your pronunciation is very good." I smile and say, "Thank you." I tried to do shadowing on Saturday evening after work and all of Sunday. I tried to speak like a native speaker. I know it is still not perfect, but I also noticed a big change in my pronunciation. Our teacher asks if anybody else tried to practice shadowing. 3 students raise their hands. One of them is a student from South Korea who also likes this technique. Another student says she tried the technique, but her mouth hurt a lot after 5 minutes of shadowing, and she had to stop. She also mentions that she wasn't always able to repeat everything because it was hard to keep up with the speed of the recording. Our teacher says, "Thank you for trying out this technique. If your mouth hurts after 5 minutes of shadowing, it means you are doing it correctly. Your muscles need to be trained to this new way of speaking. It's like going to the gym for the first time. Your muscles can hurt if they are not trained. If your mouth's muscles hurt, You can take a break after 5 minutes and continue a bit later. With every 5 minutes of practice, your pronunciation should improve. Shadowing also has other advantages. You practice correct pronunciation, intonation, rhythm, and connecting words in sentences. At the beginning, the recording can sometimes be too fast. If this happens, you can repeat only the first or the last word in the sentence. With practice, you will be able to repeat more. I agree, I say. On Saturday, when I started shadowing, it was quite difficult for me. By Sunday evening, it was easier to repeat what I heard. Then, I have a question for our teacher. I looked at www.grammarinlevels.com. The website is interesting, but I don't know what level is for me because I don't know how many words I know in English. Our teacher asks other students if they know how many words they know in English. It is interesting to see that nobody knows. We know we are intermediate students, but we don't know how many words we know. Our teacher says, there is a website for people who study foreign languages where you can take a test to find out how many words you know. The test has only 2 steps and is very simple. The name of the website is www.testlanguages.com. You can do the test every month and see how much you improve. If you want, you can take out your smartphones and do the test now. I want to know how many words I know, so I do the test immediately. I find out that I know 2,100 words in English. Most of the students know between 2,000 and 2,200 words. Only Monica and the boy from South Korea know 2,500 words. Our teacher says, so you can see that when you go to www.grammarinlevels.com, you should already know grammar from level 1 and level 2. You can start using grammar from level 3, which is for students who know between 2,000 and 3,000 words. How to handle mistakes. On Tuesday, I go to school again. One student asks our teacher an interesting question. She says, I would like to practice speaking with people around me, but I am afraid of making mistakes. I don't want to look stupid. Can you help me? Our teacher says, making mistakes is an interesting topic. There are many opinions on it. I want to show you what I believe is the best approach. I have a lot of experience with this because I also learn new languages. For example, I am currently learning Spanish. When I speak Spanish, I don't care if I make mistakes. When I learned my native language, I didn't care about making mistakes either. My main goal when using any language is to express my ideas. I know that when I read a lot, speak, and do shadowing, my Spanish will improve. This approach sounds simple, but it is effective. After many years of teaching and learning languages, I find it works well for me and my students. When I speak, I concentrate on communicating. I know 1,500 words in Spanish, which is the level of a 2-year-old child. 2-year-olds make many mistakes but continue using their language. By the time they are 3, they make fewer mistakes, and by 4, they speak well with hardly any mistakes. You should have the same attitude. Now most of you know about 2,000 words, so it is okay to make mistakes. As you continue using English, you will make fewer mistakes. It is impossible to improve without making mistakes. When you practice English, it is okay not to be perfect. Perfection comes with practice. Everyone who learns a language starts from the beginning. Learning a language is like learning to play a musical instrument. It requires training. At first, it is not perfect, and you make mistakes, which is normal. Accept mistakes as a necessary part of learning. If you didn't make mistakes, you couldn't progress. Continue learning, and the mistakes will gradually be eliminated. If you want to make fewer mistakes, do a lot of reading and shadowing. Reading aloud can help reduce mistakes in real conversations. Focus on exchanging ideas, not on mistakes. When you practice speaking, you are training to convert thoughts into words. Don't worry about mistakes. Even famous people make them. What matters is expressing your ideas. Does this make sense? The girl says, "Yes, thank you." How to remember words. On Wednesday, I go to school again. At the beginning of the lesson, one student says, "I started to read more." I feel that it is good for me. Sometimes I find a word that I don't know. Can you tell me how I can remember this word? Our teacher says, "Thank you for your question." You can find many ideas on the internet, and they all work, but not for everyone. You need to try different methods and choose the best for you. You can write new words in your notebook and repeat them before you sleep. Another way is to use new words in your writing or speaking. You can write your own sentences with new words. You can also record the new word with your voice and listen to it many times. Or you can try another technique called shadowing. You can listen to a recording with the word many times and repeat it aloud. Another technique is to read texts where you can find the new word again. This technique can be very effective if you find a text about a subject that interests you. My personal favorite technique is to create a mental image for the word. For example, if I learn the word apple, I can imagine a red apple. I close my eyes and imagine it clearly in my mind. The clearer your imagination, the better you remember the word. You can also draw a picture of the word or use flashcards. You need to try different techniques and see what works best for you. The more creative you are with these techniques, the better you will remember new words. And if you really want to remember a new word, you need to use it. Use it when speaking, writing, or thinking in English. The more you use the new word, the better you will remember it. Does this help? The student says, "Yes, thank you." How to understand words from context. On Thursday, I go to school again. One student asks an interesting question. I read a lot of books and sometimes find words I don't know. What should I do when I find a new word? Our teacher says, you can do several things. First, you can guess the meaning from the context. Look at the sentence where the new word is. Sometimes the sentence can give you a good idea of what the new word means. If you can't guess the meaning, you can look in a dictionary. But I recommend guessing the meaning first. Guessing helps you understand better and makes your brain work. If you guess the meaning from the context, you will remember the word better. You can also ask someone what the new word means or write it down and find out later. But the best way to learn new words is to find their meaning from the context. When you guess, you practice thinking in English. This is very important for your language skills. Sometimes you will guess wrong, but that's okay. With practice, you will get better at guessing meanings, and your brain will be trained to understand English better. Did I answer your question? The student says, yes, thank you. I will try to guess the meaning from the context first.